Okay, so here we are with another action figure unboxing. I fixed my laptop. Yeah, uh, that annoying screen flicker I was talking about in some of my past few videos, especially the video where I reviewed the Duster figure from Action Force. I fixed it. Yeah, I'm really proud of myself for fixing that. Yeah, all I did was I looked up a video on YouTube and just looked up how to fix Acer laptop screen black screen, and uh, and found a video where the guy basically walks you through how to take apart your laptop and put it back together, and now it works. So I just took the bottom off of the laptop and disconnected the battery, and then there's like a little watch battery type thing you got to pull out of it and put back in, and put the whole thing back together, and then it works. I don't know why that was what did it. I'm not like an expert in computers or anything, but I don't care. It's take Magic Box apart, put Magic Box back together. Magic Box is magic again. That's all I need to know. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk about how I fixed my laptop, although that's a good thing. You came here to listen to me talk about an action figure, and here it is. And this is Action Force Rollout from Valaverse, and I'm pretty excited about this because, this is the third Action Force figure that I'll be opening on this show. And you might remember the first one was Sergeant Slaughter, and the second one was the previously mentioned Duster. And now I have Rollout, and pretty excited about this one because I don't know if you can see him that well because of the film, but he somewhat slightly resembles one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters, my favorite member of the G.I. Joe team, Roadblock. And he looks like almost like he gave me Roadblock's little brother. I kind of figure there's a little bit of an homage there. He's I said, kind of slightly resembles him. He's not a big dude. He looks like he's like an average sized dude, but his outfit's kind of Roadblockish, and he's a black guy, bald head, goatee. Kind of vaguely looks like Roadblock. So not enough that Hasbro's lawyers can be involved. To a certain extent, I kind of feel like maybe he's a little bit like Stalker too, because he's more like how Stalker was kind of like the consummate soldier. Kind of seems like that. So if Duster was like their answer to, or not Duster, Condor. If Condor is their answer to Duke, maybe this guy's like their answer to Stalker and Roadblock to a certain extent. So, but let's read the file card on the back here, because he's got a file card. Gotta love that about Action Force. And a nice piece of artwork on the back, or on the side. And you see again he resembles Roadblock somewhat. And I did realize what this number is here from Sergeant Slaughter. And we're in that video where I'm like, I have no idea what this number means. But I kind of figured it out. It's a 02, I think, reversed to the series that it is. And this is, I believe this is technically series 2A, because there's a 2A and a 2B. So, 2A would be, I think, Sarge and Duster and Rollout, and the Scarabs, I think, also. And I believe Trigger and Garrison Cavalry. You guys can see those. This is the ginger-bearded fellow with the sunglasses and the knight-looking dude. I believe that they'll be coming along later. And like I said, Action Force is obviously the good guys. You can look at them and tell that they're obviously the good guys. And Scarabs are obviously the bad guys. And I still haven't figured out whether the Garrison are good guys or bad guys or something in between, because I still haven't had a chance to read the comic book yet or anything like that. But my guess, just from like what little I've gleaned about them from the file cards of characters who are in Action Force, is that I'm guessing they're more of sort of an anti-hero kind of faction, like not necessarily evil and not necessarily heroes, but kind of like anti-hero, kind of grayish, if that makes any sense. But I haven't quite figured out 100% yet where they fit into all this. But I kind of feel like they would work as adversaries. Like, all three of these would be kind of adversaries to each other. Or, you know, maybe they might be forced to team up one against the other or something like that. Or, you know, like Action Force might be forced to join forces with the Garrison as uneasy allies against the Swarm, which is the more major threat. And we'll deal with the Garrison later, but for now, we're both against the Swarm, so it might be an interesting thing to have something like that going on. Like I said, I don't know that's what's going on. I haven't figured it out yet. But let's go ahead and read Rollouts Bio, which should be fun. File name, Seams Gregory R. Primary military specialty, 1-1A infantry. Secondary skills, I just woke up, so I still got a little sleep in my eyes. I can't tell if that's is it 2B air assault, 5Q Pathfinder. Birthplace, Philadelphia. In West Philadelphia, born and raised? I don't know. Gregory Seams enlisted in the Army the day after graduating high school. He qualified for a college scholarship and entered the ROTC program on a 6-year enlistment. While in college, he attended basic combat training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Woo! In his first summer, he followed by airborne school in his next. He set his sights on becoming a ranger, and upon graduating, that's exactly what he did. Hey, he's a ranger, like Stalker. He set his sights on becoming a ranger, and upon graduating, that's exactly what he did. His time in the 75th was cut short due to the fall of the Union, and after the splintering of the country, Seams found himself looking for a better way to serve. That service came in the form of private security for a Republic governor. After a skirmish took the life of the governor, Rollout was again in need of work. When Action Force was formed, Rollout was one of the few at the top of the recruitment list. Although he tended to butt heads with other team members, it did not stop Rollout from being one of the best at carrying out a mission. Rollout quickly became a senior ranking member in Action Force, so that's pretty cool. I like that he's a character who seems to have like a little bit of an attitude, and I can see him clashing with like your leader type characters. You know, he's a good soldier and he'll follow orders, but if the orders don't make sense, he's still going to be the guy to tell you, sir, permission to speak freely. This don't make no sense. So anyway, got him out of there. I haven't really talked about the inserts of these figures, but I kind of feel like there's not that much to talk about. Like the backing is kind of blank. It's not bad. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to slam on it. There is some detail to there, but I don't think it's coming across on the screen very well. But basically, it's almost kind of like a smoky, misty kind of background. There is some texture to it. But I think if one didn't look too closely at it, one could mistake it for just being plain unprinted cardboard. But I believe it is printed. Maybe we can see it a little better. Still, I don't think it's coming across in the camera very well. So it's nice that they put some kind of detail on there but it's just something where, like, I can't really show you, because you just gotta take my word for it that it's there. So let's take the top part of the tray off. And like the other Action Force figures, it's got this film over the top to protect the figure so he doesn't get paint rubs from the packaging. Also, I hadn't thought about this before, but somebody had pointed out in another Action Force video that I watched, it's almost kind of like color forms. It just kind of clings on there like color forms. But somebody had pointed out that, like, the other reason it would be on there is because, like I said before, they don't really have tape holding this stuff in. It's just kind of like held into the package. The little plastic thing does that, the little seal. So I do like that for that reason. And the only thing I don't like about it, and this is more something like how it affects, you know, how I do this show, is that when I hold up the figure in the package, you can't really see it very well because, like, that it's just one more thing to be reflective. But now that I got him in the package, we can see him a little bit better. And being from West Philadelphia, he does look a little bit like Will Smith. But I don't think that's intentional, you know. So, and he's got an alternate head, a helmet, several hands, this rifle, which is really cool. So, there we go. You can see this one, I think it's also a Scar, like the one that Duster had, but it's different. It doesn't have the grenade launcher on there, and it has a foregrip, which I like, and it has a scope, which is really cool. So I'll look forward to playing around with that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and take the stuff out of the package. And unlike most figures, I'm going to go ahead and take the figure out first, because that worked pretty well with Duster, considering how, like, all the stuff is embedded in here pretty well. And actually, the figure is probably the thing that's held in here, you know, with the least bit of tension. So it makes sense to me to take him out first. And he's a handsome-looking figure. Like, got a lot of good coloration to it. Nice and vibrant, but still somewhat realistic. Like with Duster, he's got blue on him, which isn't what you particularly think of as a military color. You know, like olive drabs and things like that. But it's a color, to me, it pops and it looks good. So I'm happy about that. I like that shade of blue. I think that works pretty well. And if we imagine these guys as being, like, you know, not necessarily like a woodland camo, but not necessarily like a full urban camo either. Hey, the whole color scheme makes sense. I like it. So we got this cool little slightly curved knife. We got several hands, like with the other Action Force figures. So these figures could probably be about $5 less if they didn't have all these hands. But I'm not complaining. I'd rather pay a little bit extra money for the extra hands because they're really cool. So here's a fist, and like I always say, anything that gives you more display options is something that I like. And here's just kind of a standard, almost C grip. This would be good for, like, holding a knife or something like that. We got a helmet, which, by the way, I feel like an idiot, because I figured out right after the video ended how to put this stuff on Duster's helmet. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But here's a helmet. It looks pretty much like the same type of half-shell helmet like Duster came with. So, yeah, we will discuss how to put those earphones on Duster. Do I have him over? Yeah, I have him over. He's still over there on my shelf. On my little workbench shelf thing. Got some goggles here that look very similar to the ones that came with Duster, and probably work exactly the same as those. Probably the same piece, just molded in black instead of green now. There's the other gripping hand, and the other fist, and the other resting hand to rest the rifle on. which even though I'm really glad it came with this, and again, gives us more display options if we want him to hold several weapons, we're not really going to need it on this figure because, like I said, he's got that foregrip on the rifle. So these, I'm probably just going to leave those trigger hands on both. Trigger hands are probably my favorite hands because they're the most versatile. Like I said, those C-grip hands, those will hold a knife really well. But you can also hold a knife with the trigger finger hand. It'll still work. And then the last accessory is this head with the Balaclava on it, which Condor came with one of these heads too, which I have not had a chance to get Condor yet. And hopefully I'll get a chance to get one at some point. Because like I said, he kind of seems like he'd be like the Duke of this series. And I'd kind of like to have him. And he's British, so that's pretty cool. Because since, you know, Action Force originally was the British version of G.I. Joe. And in fact predates G.I. Joe and just kind of like segued into being the British version of G.I. Joe. But it was still inspired by Action Man, which is the British version of the original 12-inch G.I. Joe. So there's a little bit of G.I. Joe DNA in this, even if it is like a completely separate line, and it's basically an original property at this point that, you know, it's legally and separately distinct, but it still kind of has that, like I said, that sort of DNA of it. It's still connected. Like, at this point, this line is almost kind of like a cousin or a stepbrother to G.I. Joe, if that makes any sense. Like, it wouldn't exist if G.I. Joe didn't already exist. So, you know, there is a connection there, even though it's its own thing. Which I think is pretty cool. So, taking a closer look at Duster here. And it's got a nice head sculpt to it. He's got like a little bit of a bug-eyed thing going on. But the sculpt is nice. I think that's just all in the paints. So, but it works. It gives him like a sort of intensity to it. Like I said, he looks kind of vaguely like Roadblock in that he is a bald-headed black man with a goatee. So, and in fact, let's see, do I have around here? I might have to go get it out of the bin. Excuse me one moment. Let's see if I can find it. Is it in this bin? There's Scarlet. Yeah, here we go. The first classified Roadblock is the one that, to me, he kind of most resembles. I don't know if, you know, maybe the same sculptor worked on it at some point. But you see, like, they don't look like the same guy, but they could be, like, related. You know, it's, the one of them could be brothers or cousins to the other one. So, you know, I'd seen where people had posed them next to each other, like, you know, part of the same squad or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, they look like they could be, like, cousins. You know, if I want to use the old Roadblock as heavy duty, because he doesn't look, you know, as much like Roadblock as the heavy artillery one, you know, which that one I do have right here. In all of his awesome glory with his Gridiron Studios Ma Deuce. I might make a video about that later. It's worth talking about on its own. If I use that one as the regular Roadblock, and I decided this one is heavy duty now, this could be a double blast. So they could all be cousins to each other. And Double Blast, you know, used the older Roadblock mold that wasn't really as big as Roadblock should be, so that kind of works in my mind. Double Blast would be, if those three were cousins, Double Blast would be the runt of the litter at only 6'4" and only 280 pounds of solid muscle, instead of, like, you know 7'5" and 350 pounds of solid muscle like Roadblock. He's kind of a pipsqueak. He's only, like, you know, only slightly massive instead of enormously massive. So, but the colors are really good on this figure. Like I said, I like the blues and the gray and the tan, and everything just works so well together on this figure. and he pops. Like, I say that a lot about these figures. It's like, it pops, you know. So, it's like, it just means it catches your eye. It stands out on your shelf. And at the same time, he's got a similar coloration to Duster, and if I had Condor, he'd have a similar coloration to him. But, you know, it's still a unique enough color scheme that they're not going to look like this. You're not going to get them confused on the shelf, obviously, and not just because of, you know, the ethnic differences, but the uniforms. You can tell that these guys are in the same squad. Like, they have, like, the blue and the green and the gray, and it all kind of fits together. So, even though, like, I don't think any of these colors are the exact same shade, you know, but it's still close enough where, like, there's a uniform look to them, even if they're not wearing a uniform per se. Now, I didn't take the vest off of Duster last time, and I don't think I'm going to take the vest off of him either. From what I understand, like, on these, at least on the early vests, which this is the same vest that Condor had, the pegs are a little hard to get back in there, and I don't want to be dealing with that frustration on the video. I'd rather just, you know, just power through everything that we need to know about this figure offhand. But it's enough for me to tell you that, like, this vest does come off, and, you know, you can probably find pictures of him without the vest online, but I'm not going to take it off right now. I probably will later, so I can deal with that frustration on my own of getting it back on. So, you know, just know that you can take the vest off of this guy. So, let's go ahead and gear him up a little bit. And like I said, I went through all the hands. I'm not going to replace any of the hands on mine. I think I'm just going to stick with these hands, and these other hands are just going to be extra hands that, like, you know, maybe if I wind up doing some specific pictures where I want to have them with clenched fists or something like that, I might do that. But we know how the hands come out. We know how the hands go in. You know, you can just kind of pull them out, put them back in. But I'm just, like I said, not going to deal with that right now because it's not necessary. But I will, on the other hand, put the Balaclava head on there so we can see what he looks like with that. And I think it's really cool that he comes with this extra head. It gives him a different look. And you could even army build this character. Like, if you wanted to have several characters with this same uniform, like his own squad of men, then you could just put these on there and it'd be like several guys with the same head. And I don't think it popped on there all the way. You might want to heat it up that first time, like I was talking about with the alternate Duster head, because I didn't feel it pop when I fit it on there, but it did fit on there at least well enough that, like, unlike with Duster where I couldn't get it on at all, you know, I at least got it on there to the point where it'll stay on there for this review, I think. Let me see if I can get it to pop. But probably the smartest thing to do would be the first time you put this head on there, go ahead and heat it up with the hairdryer a little bit, and maybe wiggle it around some and work it onto the body. One thing about this is you can see that he's got gray sleeves, and the t-shirt underneath is blue, but with gray across the chest. So it looks kind of like one of those, got gray at the collar too, kind of like one of those Under Armour type shirts on here. So I would imagine, you know, that would be a cool thing to have if you were to swap his vest out with the one that Duster has, and you could see that that he's got a little more sort of texture going on with a t-shirt than you would imagine. Like, it's the sort of thing where, like, I could see, like, a toy company doing a figure like this and being like, why bother to paint the t-shirt underneath, because they're just going to leave the vest on there anyway, probably. You know, and even if they take it off, it's like, you know, it's just a t-shirt, who cares? But it's nice that they went that extra mile, isn't it? So let's have a look at his accessories. And we got this knife, this little curved knife, which I think is just really nasty looking. I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in, like, ew. I mean, like that looks like that would hurt to get stuck with that. This is the kind of thing a Klingon would design. Like, all these barbs and stuff on there. It would hurt going in, and it would hurt coming out. So, and that'll fit quite nicely into this holster in the back, or sheath in the back, I should say. And it fits in there fairly snugly. So there we go. So that'll be something he can reach for if he's in a fight, and he needs just like something to kill the bad guy. He can reach back there and grab that knife. So that's pretty cool. He's got a little med pack over here, so if he does get wounded in battle, he can do some emergency medical treatment on himself, or you know, one of his comrades, one of his brothers in arms, if they get hurt. Got some extra ammo clips here in the ammo pouch, and again fits in there rather snugly. That was something else that was another accessory that was already on the figure when I took him out. And then we got a handgun over here, so let's have a look at that. And that's in a nice holster. It seems to fit in there rather snugly. Like I said, my one problem with the one that Duster had was that it didn't fit very snugly into that holster, so I'm going to need to try to tighten that up somehow, but that's like a fancy-looking gun. This seems to almost be like sort of more of a science-fictional-looking gun, like what we saw with G.I. Joe Classified. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like an expert in guns. It might turn out it's something actually very realistic, but it looks a little more science-fictional to me. But it's cool, and it's really big. It's a fairly massive handgun. I like it. So, and it does have, you know, the pew-pew hole here, so we can put a pew-pew in there if we want to. The shape of it kind of reminds me of a taser a little bit. So, maybe it's a gun with a taser attached to it. But I don't think that'd be very safe. You might go to try to shoot somebody or try to tase somebody and accidentally shoot them. I was about to say, like, you might go to shoot somebody and accidentally tase them. I guess that'd be pretty dangerous for you if you're trying to kill the guy and you wind up just, you know, hurting him. So, tasers are one of those things where, like, they don't really work like the way that they show you in the movies, where, you know, like, if you see somebody get tased in a movie, it usually knocks them unconscious. It doesn't really knock you unconscious. It just hurts really bad. It tenses up all your muscles. I guess it could knock you unconscious, but when I got tased, it didn't. So, alright, so let's talk about this helmet. Now, like I said, you know, when I had the Duster figure, I could not figure out how to get those headphones on. And you can see now, I did get the headphones on. The mic is really real straight. I'm going to have to try to bend that or something at a later date. But I did manage to get them on, and what I didn't realize, if I'd done some research for like 2 seconds, I would have figured this out, is that the little ear protectors on the half-shell helmet actually come off. So the peg hole fits into these peg holes, and the headphones on Duster only had one peg to peg into there, whereas the ear protectors seem to have 2. So, but that's how you're able to do that. And I guess I just thought it was one solid piece. I didn't think to try to remove it, but yeah, you can take these parts out and swap them out with the headphones. Now, Rollout does not come with any extra doodads to fit in there, so he'll just keep those ear covers on there. And it seems like mine got a little warped in the packaging, because you can see that one of the ear covers leans slightly in more than the other one. It's not going to matter when we put it on his head, obviously. It should push itself back into shape. And we got the little goggles here, and those will fit into the socket. You see where it's actually got where the helmet plug is? It'll actually fit into that helmet plug. And like with Duster, it's not really something that's like obvious when you're just looking at it by itself that there's a hole there, because it just fits in with the plug. So you don't have to have the binoculars on there for it to look complete, which is good. But at the same time, like, you can put them in there, and it's something that works pretty well to me. So there's what he looks like with the balaclava and the helmet. And the helmet should fit over the regular head just fine. Let's go ahead and switch those back. Put the unmasked head back on there. The default head, as it were. And we can fit the helmet on there. It should fit just fine. I hope it fits just fine. If I get it at the right angle. I had it kind of tilted up a little too slightly. I'm just fidgeting with it to get it on there. Yeah, there we go. It looks good with that helmet, don't he? It's a little bit crooked. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit more. It's just kind of tilted one way. There we go. Oh, my knife fell out. So that's something you might want to be careful about, is this knife doesn't fit in here like 100% as snugly as I feel like it should. Did I have it in there the wrong way, maybe? I might have had it in there the wrong way, because it feels a little more snug going in that way. So how you want to put it in there, just so we're sure, is with the blade facing up. And it seems to fit in there better now. So, but I wasn't really thinking about that before. So we got the binoculars, and those will fit, like I said, right into that helmet plug. And it feels like it's a little more snug than Duster's. Maybe it's maybe the plastic is slightly more rigid, but I didn't really notice. I think it might be. So it fit in there a little more snugly, but it still fit in there just fine. So there he is with the binoculars. And with these, whereas Duster's, I think they just kind of had them painted in black. Yeah. These are painted in like a light blue color. So that's pretty neat. And if you don't want to have them with if you want to still have the binoculars on the helmet, but don't want to have them in the down position, all you got to do is flip the whole thing upside down, and you can have it on his helmet like that. So that's pretty cool. So, it's not like the sort of thing where, like, I'm guessing if you, I'm not familiar with these goggles, but I would guess if you flip them up, you know, the eyepiece would be in the front here, because it would flip down onto your face. I don't know if you can, like, switch those around this way or whatever. But to me, it works. It still looks like he's just got the goggles flipped up. You're using a little bit of imagination anytime you play with a toy. You know, so, like, if the kid's playing with the toy, I don't think he's going to really care which way the goggles are pointing when they're flipped up. He's just going to care that they're flipped up. At least that's the way I would have thought about it when I was a kid. It would have looked fine to me. So, and even as an adult, like, if I wanted to have him like this on my shelf, to me that looks good. You know, I don't really care that they don't actually flip up. Would it be nice if they flipped up? Sure it would. But that's one more piece of articulation, that's one more piece of engineering, that's just 2 more pieces of plastic versus 1 more piece of plastic. So I can understand why they would just kind of, just flip the plug upside down, and that works. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm just pointing out that that's a thing. So I got this whole pile of hands over here. I did not mention that he has a figure stand, but it's the same figure stand that came with Sergeant Slaughter and with Duster. So we're very familiar with this figure stand at this point, right? Okay. So it is really cool that they come with a figure stand. I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm just forgetting about the figure stand. I know it's there. I'm happy it's there. So, you know, kudos to them for including a figure stand. All right, so let's go ahead and put the rifle in his hands. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that this rifle is called a SCAR. I'm not like a gun expert, but it's a gun I've bought from Marauder Task Force before. That's how I recognize it. I don't know. I hadn't noticed if maybe they have some sort of like description on the package as to what weapons they have. But that might be something worth considering in the future. If anybody from Valaverse is watching this, it might be worth considering putting a list of everything that is an accessory that comes with the figure and what it is. You know, like the old G.I. Joe figures used to come with, and I used to like looking through that list of what all the accessories were, so then I would know. So, you know, and there might be some kind of legal reason why, like, if this is a SCAR, they can't refer to it as a SCAR, because the manufacturer of the actual rifle wouldn't like that, or something like that. But, you know, they could put, like, rifle, submachine gun, whatever they want to. But you see, like, those double elbows, they give you a nice posing ability. So you can have that rifle up at his side like he's ready for action. So that's pretty cool. And let's see if we can get into a good firing pose. All of the articulation seems to be working pretty well. None of it seems particularly stiff. as I mentioned in the other Action Force reviews that I did, like the first wave of Action Force came with like a little instruction sheet telling you, if the joints are stiff, don't force it. How to apply heat to it, like hot water or a blow dryer, to soften it up so he can move. But this doesn't seem to be a problem on this guy. He seems to move just fine. I would probably still have that sheet in there just as like a standard thing. Because I'm always telling people, don't force the joints. If it feels like it's stuck, try to soften it up first somehow. I'm always telling people that. So it was nice to have an action figure company actually telling the consumer that. And there we go. There he is with the foregrip. And he is ready for action. Got that good articulation. Like I said, if you drop down the hips, you can actually get the leg up more than 45 degrees. He can do the splits no problem. It's just slightly hindered by the gigantic pistol that's there. So, but, you could probably push that a little bit further down the leg if you really want to get into the Van Damme of it all. So, there we go. Got the double joints at the knees. And like I said, none of these seem too stiff. They all seem like they're working just fine. This one maybe a little bit, but if I'm patient with it, just kind of, there we go. So we got both the double knees going on. Their ankle articulation is on point. So these look like they're the same boots that Sergeant Slaughter had, only now they're colored gray instead of green. So these nice combat boots that I really like with the laces and everything. I've been customizing G.I. Joe figures a lot, the classified, and all of them seem to have that shin guard thing going on. It's just like, I use a lot of flint, so all my figures wind up having the shin guards. But I would probably prefer for them to have laced up boots. Maybe when I can get a hold of some of these for cheaper, when I can get a hold of like some of the basic, troop builder figures, maybe I can be swapping some legs around. I don't know how compatible they are, but I will let you guys know when I know. Okay, so but yeah, he's a really cool looking figure, and like I always say about Action Force, they're good figures on their own, just as Action Force figures. They're good figures to supplement your G.I. Joe Classified. Or, you can have your G.I. Joe Classified supplement your Action Force. Whatever. It's, I would imagine that, like I said, a lot of people are we kind of look at it the same way that I'm looking at it, where it's like, you have an Action Force universe and you have a G.I. Joe universe, and you can kind of have some overlap between the two of them. I've seen a lot of people incorporate G.I. Joe characters into the Action Force story, and they fit right in. And likewise, I could see this guy, in the G.I. Joe universe being a member of the G.I. Joe team, or maybe Action Force is like a separate entity even in the G.I. Joe universe, or whatever. So it kind of seems to me like the sort of thing where it's like, they could almost be parallel universes to each other, and you could have the characters interact in various ways. So, even without getting into the nitty-gritty of characters crossing into a parallel universe, like in a science fiction sort of way, they could still have, counterparts and doppelgangers and all that kind of stuff. So, if Rollout's a guy in the Action Force universe, maybe there's also a Rollout in the G.I. Joe universe kind of thing. So, I don't put too much thought into it, but I've put enough thought into it that, like, I kind of figure that's how it works in my mind. So, do I recommend this guy? Hell yeah. I mean, this is a cool looking figure, and, like I said, you could, if you wanted to incorporate G.I. Joe characters in here, imagine that he's a third cousin in the Roadblock heavy duty, double blast, that whole thing. So Rollout could be another member of that family, or you could even use him as double blast. I think that would work pretty well. So use your classified version 1 as heavy duty. Use your classified heavy artillery Roadblock as Roadblock himself, and this guy's double blast. Even the coloration of it kind of reminds me of my personal favorite vintage Roadblock figure, version 4, I believe. You know, the one that had the big honking machine gun that got recalled because the weird disc thingy that came with him didn't work so well, so they wound up recalling it and just giving him a generic weapons tree, which is a shame because that big honking machine gun was really awesome. But he's got a similar color scheme to that. It's kind of reversed in some ways, but yeah, he works pretty well in that regard, I think. So he stands really well as his own figure, and he could tie in with my favorite G.I. Joe character if you wanted to. So that's a good thing. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I can't really think of anything else to say about this guy right now. And if I do, I guess I'll just mention it in a later Action Force review. But if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Tell me what you think about Rollout and what is his position in your particular universe, in your particular canon. You know, do you wind up combining the Action Force characters in with G.I. Joe and vice versa? You know, or do you consider them like fully hard separate? I can't separate them fully just because of Sergeant Slaughter. So Sergeant Slaughter is a character that clearly exists in both universes. It doesn't seem to me like you could have, you know, them be completely separate to me. Like, there's always going to be that little bit of an overlap there, unless you just want to, like, ignore Sergeant Slaughter completely. So to me, yeah, they're always going to be kind of connected and kind of cousins to each other. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.